Okay. So I'm Jayne Flanagan. I'm not an economist. I'm a occupational therapist, and really probably can be counted among the many insufferable MMT enthusiasts in the room. So I really have come to this journey through, well, in actual fact, I am related to Bill Mitchell's wife. I'm her first cousin, so I don't know how I would have come to MMT if I hadn't have had Bill as a family member, because I think, I probably wouldn't have come across it until maybe the Future to Fight For campaign, because I was, a Get Up member, and still am a Get Up member, and it's an excellent campaign. So, I have been lucky in that way, and ever since, really, it has changed the path on which I've, taken professionally, personally. And having been an occupational therapist in aged care, I have seen, ever since I've worked in the system, it's been under-resourced and understaffed, and caseloads that have been unmanageable, and essential resources, not available. They've been scarce. As an occupational therapist, we prescribe things like pressure care, which are, life or death, really, in a lot of circumstances. And these have been scarce. You're waiting weeks sometimes to get these pieces of equipment out to people. I had a client who, when I was working at MS Australia, who was told he needed to wait 3 years to be assessed to get a wheelchair, who was going through an acute episode of his MS and couldn't walk. And this was in a major city in Australia, in Sydney. Happened to be in one of the more impoverished areas of Sydney, which is Parramatta, the Parramatta local government area. So a lot of our time as clinicians really are about, fighting for the resources that should be available. And because our patients don't have those advocacy, they just don't have those advocacy skills. So I have experienced firsthand, really, the terrible situation in which our health system is in, and I am sick of constantly hearing politicians talking about the burden of our ageing population, and we've only just heard Josh Frydenberg talking about the economic time bomb that is the aged. And, it just is shameful and appalling that we talk in these terms, because our ageing population are a triumph, and we should be, supporting them as well as we can. And, as you would have heard maybe, Phil Lorne has done an excellent video on debunking the ageing myths, and it's one of my absolutely favourite MMT videos, and how he explains, which we've heard over the last few days, the government can't run out of money. We can afford to pay for nice things like aged care and education and infrastructure and housing, all of these things that are fundamental to our health. And so, I think I've since shifted from a clinical focus. I'm still working as an occupational therapist, but I now am doing a Masters of Public Health, and with a view to I think I told Stephen Howe about a year ago, I'm determined to shift the conversation within the public health community. So I'm now part of the Political Economy of Health Special Interest Group on their committee, and slowly chipping away at what is still, they're still dictated by the orthodoxy, so they're still talking about, getting money off the rich people before we can afford the things that we need in healthcare. But I think more so now, I think my focus has shifted, because it's now thinking about, health in all policies. Our health isn't just determined by our access to a hospital or access to community services. It's determined by whether or not we have access to good education, good transport and housing. All of these factors influence your health across the lifespan, and if you start off in poverty, you are likely to have a shorter lifespan. So yeah, it's extremely important, and it is a life and death matter, and health is impacted by what happens on a macro level, our everyday health, our everyday well-being. Let's see, I made notes, but my focus now is really about broadening the conversation and promoting modern monetary theory as a basis of improving our democracy and improving equality, and ensuring that everyone has equal access, equal rights to health, improving health equity in Australia. And I really, it is against my grain. I mean, I'm shaking in my boots right now, and it's not something that I would usually do, but I really, if I can do it, we all can do it. And I think we just have to be bold, and we have to be vigilant, because our healthcare system is being privatised by stealth. Our aged care reform system now is now a market model. Our NDIS it's a market model, and it's completely unfair and inequitable. And the workers within that system are also facing a lot of hardship because it's become casualised. So I'm now part of a gig economy in the health sector. So I now am looking at, I'm part of Modern Money Australia, which I have co-founded with several members. And I think once we've finished discussing here, I'm just going to call them down, and I hope it's okay, but we're just going to give you a brief rundown of what we're doing, and maybe if you would like to join in, we're going to try to establish groups across Australia. And I just think, as Bill said, it's an educative approach. I suppose we need to really be able to empower ourselves with that knowledge, to then be able to empower everyone else and to then be able to challenge the lies that our politicians tell us, because we know we can have nice things. We've got a huge, it's a huge challenge ahead of us, and I'm frightened. And but MMT, I think, is hopeful. It is what gives me hope anyway. But I know that it's a big challenge to try and shift the conversation. Anyway, so I'll leave it at that, and